I am here today at All Flutes Plus in London, and I am going to be trying out some of their beginner flutes. So let's go check it out. Now what I've done for today is I have muddled and mixed up those instruments, and so I don't know what I'm going to be playing on. I'm going to pick up the instrument, I'm going to chat a little bit about it, I'm going to share my experience, and at the end of this video I'm going to reveal which flute was which and give you guys the opportunity to decide which one you like without necessarily attaching a brand. Okay, so we have flute number 1 here. I'm going to play a little bit on it. Generally, when I'm testing out a flute, I like to kind of play around with various aspects of flute playing. So I will play something low, I will play that same melody higher in the octaves and then very high in the highest octave if you can. I will try something with some tonguing just to see how the instrument responds to the tonguing. I might try something really fast just to see how the mechanics respond. I will probably try something with some tone color dynamics just to see how the colors of the instrument respond. Look, on a beginner level, I'd say for most of you, you just want to play and really experience which instrument sounds the best to you and feels the most effortless. I don't think it's ever really too early to identify a good instrument. Trust me, you go to a flute shop like this amazing place and try out some of these instruments. You will know if this instrument is good. All right, flute number 1, here we go. One of the first things I always like to do, which I'm going to do right now, is I like to just play a nice scale on the instrument first. So just getting a sense of the ranges, not even going too low or too high yet, just kind of getting a sense. The low C is very sharp on this instrument, which is like unusual actually. I mean, this guy, he goes effortlessly up to high C, low notes pretty good. General sound, I'd say, is beautiful. It's an open sound, it's a lovely warm sound. I don't feel that there are any obvious sort of difficulties in the mechanics, so all around I'd say it's a pretty solid choice for a beginner instrument. I think it'll take you reasonably far. I'm going to try some staccato. It speaks pretty well, it's pretty good. It's a little bit more effort than my flute, for example. Definitely a little bit more effort, but I mean, once again, for a beginner instrument, most of you beginners aren't going to be doing that on this instrument, so you'll be fine. I'm going to lastly just try a little bit of Mozart, something quick, and see how we do. Pretty good, actually. It responds quite quickly. I'm dying to look which flute this is. But no, I'm not going to look. We're going to carry on this flute journey. Okay, so I have flute number 2 here. The first thing I immediately noticed is it's actually quite a bit heavier already. It's a little bit more heavy and solid, this instrument. So let me give it a go. So for me, straight away, bigger sound. Definitely a bigger sound. I think sometimes when we have these slightly more solid instruments, a little bit heavier, for me anyway, and this is player dependent, I feel like I have a bit more of a weight in the sound as well. Maybe it's just the imagination. The mechanics on this is a little bit more kind of springy, which I love. It's a little bit more reactive. The fingers kind of bounce back a bit faster, which is really great. So I'm excited to see how some of those faster exercises are going to play out on this guy. Let's do some slow melodies. I'm not sure if this is just this instrument. It's possibly something that could get adjusted, but it kind of feels like there's more resistance in this hand than this hand. Like these keys feel a little stiffer. So that's something I'd probably just look out for, get adjusted. Also, he easily gets up to high C. I mean, all these instruments should, you know, when played by somebody that can do it, but, you know, it's good to know. So feeling a little bit more clanky at the moment. I think it's got to do with this tension here, which is just a little bit too much. So yeah, I feel like my fingers have to work a little bit more. I do prefer this kind of action, but that's also very player dependent. So I'm not gonna look what this guy is. Let's try the Mozart again. Let's see how he responds. Again, I feel a little bit more laborsome here, a little bit more tiring. It's a little bit more difficult to kind of get the fingers really nice and smooth, but it's pretty good. Not looking at the instrument. Okay, so we got another instrument. To be honest with you, if I have to be totally real with you at this stage, I'm kind of guessing which instruments are which, just because I know some of these instruments and I know how they feel, but I'm still not gonna look. I'm still gonna just play. Okay, starting with our scale. So interesting. At this point, not as even through the registers as some of the other instruments. You can kind of hear the sort of sound kind of does little waves, dips in and out. Definitely a little bit more work. I can imagine if I worked on it, I could probably get it really good, but I'm trying to just, you know, first impressions here. D once again. The one thing that I don't particularly like on this instrument is the E flat key feels quite difficult compared to the other keys to press down. And I don't like this on beginner instruments. I feel like it encourages people to push and to kind of give tension. I've recently done a video on this, so you can go check that one out. Let's carry on this test. Let's do some low notes. Look, again, it's a beautiful instrument. I mean, you're not going to go wrong with this instrument. It's got a gorgeous sound. It's working really nice and well. It's, you know, there's no like obvious issues, mechanical problems. I'd say it's just maybe a step down from the other instruments. And if it's my guess, then this is probably one of the cheaper beginner flutes, but we will find out in just a moment. It's not bad, but definitely a lot more work. Yeah, you could definitely get away with this guy for a good few years while you're learning. We're going to find out the price of this guy in a moment, which I'm suspecting is probably some good value for money. Okay, last flute for us to try. It's a little bit heavier, medium weight instrument, I'd say. Interesting to play with these different weights of instruments. Let's give it a go for some scales. I'm going to say that's probably my favorite sound so far. It's a beautiful sound for a beginner instrument. I really love the sound. We're going to find out in a moment in the mechanics kind of test. For me, the mechanics, I feel like are a little bit less even than some of the other flutes, a little less effortless. But we'll check that in a moment with the fast playing. It should become clear. Easily goes up, easily goes down, very even sound in all of those registers. In terms of tone, this instrument is wonderful. Let's give it a bit of a stress test. It's not bad. I feel like the tonguing's a little bit more kind of like muffled, like it's a little bit more cotton woolly. But not really not bad. Once again, let's try high. Definitely not as clean for me. Definitely not the cleanest instrument. Okay, so another really beautiful instrument. Really love the tone on that instrument. The mechanical work and the articulation a little bit weaker, maybe not as clear, but all round a fantastic, fantastic instrument. So drum roll, here it goes. Wait. First, my favorite. Oh, this is really tough because I'd probably say that flute number 2 and flute number 4 were my favorite in terms of sound. Tone, definitely really nice. I'd say from what I've played right now, my favorite choice would probably be number 1. And I'll tell you why. I think the sound is beautiful, even though it wasn't my favorite sound out of them. It's a beautiful full open sound. I think the mechanical work was the most consistent and kind of the easiest. I think you can hear it in the recording. And articulation was great. Registers were good. The only little niggle I had, I guess, is that low C, which is a bit sharp, possibly could be fixed. That would be my top pick, followed by number 2. Flute number 2 would definitely be my second top pick. I think by adjusting those keys ever so slightly, it would be a great instrument. Remember, all of these things are very adjustable and every single instrument you play is going to be different. Like if I was going purely on sound and good mechanics and I really wanted the best sound, maybe not necessarily the easiest mechanics, 2 would probably be my option. Followed by number 4, beautiful sound, less kind of clean mechanics, followed by number 3. Drum roll for real this time, because I'm going to reveal which instruments I played, these beautiful guys. So, flute number 1 was, and that is very surprising. Very surprising. Flute number 1 was the Trevor James 5XE. It's actually the cheapest flute on this list. It is £275. that was my favorite instrument. Wow, really? I mean, if I think about it, I guess that explains that really out of tune C. Like, the flute's got to have some kind of fault for that price. But wow, it's impressive. Flute number 2, and I'm not surprised here, was the Yamaha 212. This guy goes for about £479 here. I'm going to show you guys the dollar value of that as well. Yeah, look, I mean, I kind of knew this was a Yamaha. My first flute was a Yamaha. I know Yamaha when I see a Yamaha. These are such fabulous, fantastic instruments. Flute number 3, and this is surprising to me, because flute number 3 is the Trevor James 10XE, which is supposed to be a step up to the 5XE, which is why I actually thought they were the other way around, but apparently not. So for me, that's quite surprising. I don't know if it's just these specific instruments, but this guy is going in at about £449. So it's almost double the other flute that I liked more, which, wow, that's surprising to me. A quick tiny side note, apparently Trevor James is actually going to be remodeling this 10XE flute. I think it'll be exciting to see how that instrument changes, and yeah, maybe there's something that needs improving on that instrument, which may explain why I like the cheaper one better. And then lastly, we had the Pearl. It's the Pearl 505. Interestingly, my most expensive. I clearly love cheap flutes. Like, what is happening? So this is the Pearl 505. It goes in at £525. Once again, I think this was probably my favorite sound of all the instruments. But mechanically, definitely my weakest. Okay, that was kind of fun actually, and really a cool experiment. Like, wow, I still can't believe it. If you found this interesting, you might find this video very interesting, where I'm going to play some Christmas carols on all 4 of these flutes and then compare it to playing it on super expensive flutes and hear how that sounds. So go check that out, because that's going to be a lot of fun. Until then, happy practicing and see you next time.